Mary, try and sort this one out. Let's talk about fish, baby. Let's talk about you and me. Let's talk about all the good things and the bad things that may be. Let's talk about fish. Let's talk about fish, baby. Let's talk about you and me. Let's talk about all the good things and the bad things that can be. Let's talk about fish. Fish. Let's talk about fish. Let's talk about fish. Instrumental break.
Hey, Joey.
Good morning, Father Fish.
Let's talk about fish, baby. Let's talk about you and me. Let's talk about all the good things and the bad things that may be. Let's talk about fish. Let's talk about fish. 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 Let's talk about you and me. Let's talk about all the good things and the bad things that may be. Let's talk about fish. Let's talk about fish. Fish. I think that one will do.
Yeah, really well.
That's right. It will.
Hi, Joey.
Good morning. How are you?
Good morning. How are you? Hello out there, fishy friends.
Yeah.
In our morning shoal. Lori,
Absolutely.
wonderful to see you. Hi, Mary. Wonderful to see you.
Yeah.
Lee.
And Lori's here this morning. Monster Fish Gal's here. Everybody's here. And Lee, yeah.
Big gang. Palsy.
Fishing, Tank Ticks, Petroman's here. Oh.
Good things. All of my favorite fish people.
Yes, they're all here. They're
Wonderful.
all here. James, David.
Jason Sear. Monster Fish Gal. J-Dog.
Steph. Hi, Steph.
Petroman. Glassbox Fox. Deep Substrate. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
David Samsel. Hello, David. Tisha. Hi, Tisha. Petroman. Sharpies.
Guppy grass galore.
Guppy grass. Oh my goodness! Right.
It's a mouthful. Yeah. Michael Long, Mike D.
Stephanie.
Shay Oliver. Dreamweaver Aquatics.
Hello, Stephanie. Oh, goodness sakes.
Thank you, Petroman. Thank you. Good.
All the way back. I gotta go forward here. Sorry to keep up. Guppy grass galore. Hello. Raven Thomas, James Handy, Sharpie.
Mm-hmm.
My. Well, we got our new video out last night.
Yeah, that's what you were saying. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not all that excited about it. It was kind of boring. But then I guess when you think about it, sitting there watching a fish tank for hour after hour is the very essence of, if you take it on one level, boredom or boring for anyone watching.
It's not necessarily boring. It's what you're looking to get out of it, you know?
Precisely. I mean, after all, is Buddha meditating boring? It's the same thing, I think.
Not to Buddha.
Not to Buddha,
to whoever's meditating.
Yeah, right, exactly. Well, that was kind of my problem with it, exactly. I mean, I try to look at these things with some objectivity. And a new person coming in who knows nothing about Father Fish and his foolhardiness, and attention to minuscule and meaningless detail would say, 5 seconds later, I'm gone.
Well,
But there are jewels. There, I listened to it all the way through. And there are, oh, by the way, Thomas, if you're here, we need to put the links at the end, if you can do that, please. So we've got 500 hits in the first overnight, 9 hours or so. That's okay.
yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting watching what's happening right now. The last time we had a big spurt on the channel was in May. And it went straight up for 2 weeks and straight down for 2 weeks. Well, it's been up now for 2 weeks, and it's kind of dipping, hovering. It's sine curving up there. I'm hoping we can keep it at that level. If we can keep it at the level of about 5,000 views, even 4,000, even 3,000 a day, that'll be exciting because that'll be real growth. So we'll see.
Well, yeah. So you'll have to, I guess, just have to see how it goes. You know.
We usually do. That's what we do. By the
You
way,
mentioned you're wearing your SHOAL t-shirt.
yes,
this
look at
morning.
this. See that?
Teespring
This is
t-shirt.
their Teespring t-shirt. Father Fishy SHOAL. Keep it dirted.
And Lori just dropped that link. Thank you, Lori. So
Thank you, Lori.
that's
Yes.
great.
And
hello,
Thomas and I,
GRD.
Thomas and I are going out collecting today. So we're not gonna try to do a live stream, but we will do videos. We're gonna try to do a couple depending on the different spots we get to.
Yes. Sorry, I'm just reading Petroman's comment at 9:07.
Great water quality up in Maine, Mane. That would refer to your hair, I guess.
Well, that's okay. It's just a typo. We know what he meant.
I only drink Poland spring water. My tap water is loaded with chloramines. Here in New Jersey,
It
yeah.
just cracked me up about the Poland spring water.
I couldn't agree more with Poland spring water.
Because, I mean, yes.
Right.
But I just made
Yeah,
it laugh.
getting rid of what are they called? Chloramines is a bother. You don't have to make it too much trouble. I sell on my website and on GetGills, I sell sodium thiosulfate in 1,000-gallon portions.
Yeah.
Those crystals, at 1 crystal per gallon, will break the chloramine molecule bond, releasing or precipitating out the chlorine and leaving a minuscule amount of ammonia. Nothing really to worry about. A dirted substrate will take care of it in a matter of minutes. So it's not going to be enough to cause a problem. Yeah.
And my question to you is, do you only treat the water that you're putting in the tank when you're doing the water change? So would you put enough in and just treat that water, or would you treat the whole tank? Just trying to be clear for everyone.
No, you don't need to treat the whole tank. I mean, the sodium thiosulfate is harmless. It's a salt, after all. Vitamin C does the same thing, a vitamin C powder. There are a lot of things that'll take chlorine out of the water. The better option for the water supply systems is to not put a second toxin in the water supply. You know, one's bad enough. When you put the other one in order to reinforce the first one, you're simply creating a double whammy of poisons in the water. It's a pretty outrageous, capital zero O, outrageous thing to do, to assume that somehow one poison in the water is not good enough. You need a second one in order to make sure that one doesn't go away when you put your water in a glass to drink it.
Well,
And
that's
after
why
all,
we're talking about it.
yeah, well, right.
so that everybody's clear on how it works,
Right.
You do have a question at 9:06.
Get me off of that rant. That's good.
Yeah, I got to get you off of that rant. We got to move on to something else, okay?
I know. It's a broken record.
I just like to make sure everybody knows, what we're talking about. You treat doing this, you're doing that. That's why we're all here, right?
Right. Go for
I'm
it. What do
here
you
to
got?
make you crazy. That's it. So anyway, 9:06, Joe Hawks.
Oh, go ahead and read it.
Do you want to read it or do you want me to read it?
Yeah, read it. Read it. Yeah.
Fish, do you ever clean the tanks you have or only do water changes? I mean, do you clean out fish poop and moan?
Good question. I consider fish poop and malm, and they're in many ways the same thing, as something comparable to gold. It is the source of all life in the tank, and never remove it. However, I never get it building up. And here's why. The sand in the bottom of the tank, that 2 inches of sand, allows the malm to penetrate into it. The word is precipitate. It precipitates, it falls down into the bottom. And it goes down in between each of those little tiny grains of sand. It sifts into it. Malm is extremely fine material, made such by the fish who are constantly picking up and chewing and swallowing that waste and pooping it back out to the point where it becomes an extremely fine uh, detritus, we call it. By precipitating into the substrate, into that sand, prevents it from building up on the surface. Now, if there is a buildup of malm on the top of the sand, you can add another half inch of sand. Add another half an inch of sand, and that'll take care of it. In a new tank, the mold can build up in it, and it can build up to the point where it's kind of full because it really hasn't started working its way through yet into the deeper substrate. That may take a while, although I've rarely found that with these systems, there rarely is a mold buildup. If it's shallow, there is. I do have some tanks that are some 15-gallon tanks in which the substrate really is too shallow. And I get a mold buildup in those. When I add an inch or so of sand, it clears it out because it's able to get down in there and work its way through. So no, I do not remove mold. I consider it one of the sources of nutrition for the system. It is what grows plants, after all. Now, that doesn't happen in a week or 2 weeks or a month or 2 months. It happens in a year or 2 years. It takes time. The people who do not like this system are the people who break their tanks down and redo them every year. And I'm in total accordance with their opposition. This deep substrate that I teach, that I recommend, makes no sense at all to somebody who's going to be breaking their tank down within a year or two, even 2 years. It's hardly worth the trouble. You're better off just using plain deep sand and not putting any dirt in at all. You're much better off. If you're going to break it down, it'll make it easier to do it. But if you want a tank that will last and last and last and last year after year, decade after decade, then do a dirted tank. and put 2 inches of sand cap on it. There are those who say, oh no, that won't work. You're killing the substrate. Well, killing is a relative term when it comes to things like uh, environments. There's so much apprehension about killing our environment. Well, it is not a reasonable conclusion to say that the environment can be killed, because what the environment is perfectly capable of doing is balancing out, is considering the effect of all of whatever it is that's coming into it. There may be some momentary changes that occur, but that environment, whatever it is built in such a way that it's able to handle radical and dramatic changes. Sometimes, as in the case of, let's say, a massive volcano or a massive explosion of a comet hitting the Earth, will cause the sun to be blocked out. That could happen even for a year or more, in which case nearly all plant life will die. But once it clears, it all comes back. It's relative. Now, clearly, we don't want that. We don't want to threaten the very existence of what we're doing, even in a little fish tank. We don't want to threaten that. We don't want to kill everything off just to watch it come back after a month or two. Not saying that at all, and not recommending that at all. What I am saying is that the changes that occur in a fish tank are a product of that tank, that environment that you've created, its ability to handle what's going on. And creating the deep substrate, creating a couple of inches of sand on top of an inch or so of dirt, creates an environment that is able to handle, able to take care of, able to manage the bio load that's created in the tank. Now, I do recommend limiting that bio load, not so much by limiting the amount of fish, because I've got tanks full of fish, or limiting the amount of plants. I have tanks full of plants, but limiting the amount of nutrition, the amount of food that's put in. And the reason is this: what nature seeks to create is a balance, a harmony in all of its parts, in which it supports all of its parts, in which everything is integrated, everything is balanced, everything is working in harmony. That includes the needs of every single element in that chain of events, in that balance of one thing after another. Food for little fish is created by that process, by that balancing. In this way, the substrate creates a couple of different things. It creates algae, little microscopic algae growth, which is a source of food for fish and invertebrates. It also creates microscopic life, a protozoan kind of life, little tiny animals that are eaten by the fish. And that's all part of this process, part of the balance that's going on of nutrition being provided even to the tiniest creatures in the tank, which become food for the slightly larger creatures. And that's substantial and significant. It is sufficient to meet the needs of most of the little fish that are in the tank. Obviously, it's not going to create much in the way of food for an Oscar. But if you put an Oscar in a pond, that pond will create enough food to feed that Oscar. It'll create worms. It'll breed other fish, little fish, that the Oscar can eat. It'll provide adequate nutrition. In a pond in the woods, there are many things living in there that are meeting the needs of and supporting each other. It's a natural process. And that process can occur and does occur in your fish tank if you give it a good start. You give it a way for that to take place. And that's what we're all about with this deep substrate, is creating a way for the tank to be balanced. Part of that balance includes anaerobics. There's so much misunderstanding about anaerobics, as though they're somehow a terrible, horrible, scary thing. No such thing. Anaerobics are fundamental to the ability of plants to feed. The plant itself creates anaerobics in order to break down waste so that it can feed. So much better if the system itself has an anaerobic layer that's creating, like a machine, breaking down all of that detritus, all of that waste that's going into it, breaking it down and making available to the plants as nutrition. And for that matter, making it available to the microscopic life that's living in the tank as well. So it all works together. It creates a harmonious balance within your little fish tank. Excuse me. Enough rant.
It's like, are we done with it?
We are done with it. Yes.
Okay, so at 9:16, you have a really good question from Petroman, from Joe. But you also have a really nice testimonial right underneath that from Susan for SLC Aquatics. So 2 things right in a row.
Go for it. Go ahead and read them. I'm not there.
Okay. I'll go ahead with Susan and then we'll get to the question.
All right.
Why did I do it that way? Hold on. Jeez. Okay, Father Fish, I have a testimony. My power went out for 11 hours and all my deep substrate tanks maintained themselves balanced and no fish loss or beneficial bacteria loss. I had not fed them a couple of days. So your system worked with her power going out and no fish loss.
Wonderful.
So there's her testimonial.
Thank you, Steve.
Yes,
Appreciate
it's wonderful.
it. Yeah.
And then Father Fish, this is from Joe, from Petroman. If I did your dirty tank for my discus, would it make my water hard? I use RO water. I like to keep the water soft and low pH.
No, it's not going to affect the hardness. It depends what you've got in there. I tend to add things like sodium bicarbonate and iron to my substrate. And those are things that will harden up the water. Now, the iron will increase the general hardness. It will not affect carbonates, which and I do add calcium to my substrate in order to be able to hold it up. So if you don't want that, in order to hold the pH up, if you don't want that, then just don't add those supplements, and you can maintain whatever pH balance you like. The substrate will only affect pH and hardness if it contains the kinds of minerals in it that do that. So one of the things you might want to avoid is using anything with fertilizer in it, because most fertilizers are going to contain elements that will increase the general hardness. If you use, for example, peat moss extensively, that's going to help maintain a lower pH and will help keep the hardness out. Um, just be careful what you put in, that's all. But no, it does not in and of itself do that unless there are minerals in it that do that.
So you have a question at 919 from Wesley. Can you find that one, Father Fish, and read that one? Because I got to go back and look for another question that somebody asked. I got to go back and look for it.
919, who's it from?
Wesley.
Yeah, I got it.
Okay, you do that, and then I'm going to scroll back.
Okay. Wesley says, "Hi, Wes. Nice to have you here." He says, "I have extremely hard water. How does that affect the planted tank? I have a hard time with plants growing and melting." Well, try the deep substrate. I think you'll find that it will create the kind of environment where your plants will be able to grow. Hard water, even extremely hard water, does not prevent plant growth. And it depends to some extent on the plants, of course. Um, there are plants that are saltwater plants. There are not many, but there are some. The Aponogetans, for example, are in nature, in the wild, a saltwater plant. There most other plants, however, are hard water plants. They're plants that either grow in brackish water or grow in alkaline water. So they shouldn't be a problem. But if your system, your substrate, does not provide an opportunity for the roots of those plants to be able to break down waste, then it's just they're going to melt. They're going to break down. Sand is a much more effective media for growing plants than gravel. If you have gravel in your tank, and in a sense you probably do, it's extremely difficult to grow plants in gravel. It can be done, and there are those who do it. It needs, first of all, to be deep, 3 to 4 inches minimum. 5 to 6 inches is better. I have friends over the years who have used under gravel filters with a very deep gravel substrate and have grown plants in them. They've been able to do so because as the water comes down through the gravel, it forms pockets. What the water detours around, those pockets become anaerobic. They break down waste, and the roots go into that, and that's where the plants grow, in those anaerobic pockets. A far simpler matter to create that pocket by adding 2 inches of sand on top of dirt, allowing mold as it comes in to precipitate into it and creating a balance, creating a cycle, a cycling process in the system. Again, that doesn't happen the first 24 hours. That doesn't happen even in the first 12 months, particularly. It takes a while for it to catch, but it does create an environment that allows plants to grow virtually from day one. I mean, I really don't have trouble growing plants. When I set up a deep substrate with a dirt foundation, I just don't. And hard water is beneficial. Hard water is beneficial to growing plants. So hard water is not the problem. The problem is your substrate. Work on that and you'll solve your problem. Problem is not the water. The problem is the way you have the tank set up. That's what needs to be resolved. Yes, Joey.
James has a question. James Handy has a question. Father Fish, is deep substrate recommended for a plantless tank?
Good question. That comes up often. And the answer is yes, absolutely. because it does break down waste. It controls it.
That's exactly how I keep many
Michael,
of my
if
goldfish
plants
tanks.
are not right. Yeah, Joey's talking about a goldfish tank. Perfect. Yeah, there are no plants in that tank back there.
Right.
That one doesn't. No, does that have a deep substrate? I'm
It
not sure
has,
that it does.
it has probably about 2.5 inches.
Yeah,
And
not
it's
really deep. Yeah.
not deep, and I just keep a couple of nubias, but I have some that are deeper and plantless for that reason.
What is not taken up by one thing will be taken up by another. What you'll find if you have a deep substrate and no plants is that two things will happen. Number one, there will be algae. There will be algae in that tank. If you have fish that eat algae, like goldfish, then they're gonna be fed and nurtured by that process. There also will be an increased level of other biologicals, of microscopic fauna, of uh, 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 of tiny little microscopic animals that'll be living in that substrate and will be feeding on the broken down waste that's produced. So it's not like it goes to waste. It does continue to be cycled even in the absence of plants. So it continues to create a balanced environment. It's simply that the elements are taken up by one thing or another, and they're all, there are two views of the balance of nature. One view is that it's very harmonious. The other view is that it's very much in conflict. Everything is struggling against everything else to maximize its presence in the web of life. Both of those are simply interpretations of what's actually going on. Whether you choose to use the struggle or the balance, the harmony or the conflict as means of understanding what's going on. What's going on remains what's going on. What's going on is the integration of everything with everything else. Nothing in nature exists in isolation from everything else. Absolutely nothing. Let me say that again, because that's important to understand. Nothing in nature exists in isolation from everything else. Everything that exists in the known universe, but most especially on our earth, everything that is on the earth exists in relationship to everything else in one way or another. And it's that one way or another that makes all the difference. But the one way or another is an absolute, it's not a relative. In one way or another, everything is related to at least something else, which is related to something else. So there's a web, there's a unity, there's a flow, there's an integration of every aspect of life and death and inert non-life on the earth. It all ties in. To achieve that in your fish tank, it's a relatively simple thing to do, but you've got to be willing to do something that nobody else will teach you to do. Nobody. Some people have taken a step in that direction, but they haven't completed the process. You need to create an environment that allows for a full integration, that allows for the life to death cycle to be able to go on. And that's what the deep part of the substrate, the anaerobic is. It's the death part of the system. Without death, if you will, there is no life. Without the elements, the biological elements breaking down and returning to the earth, to the soil, returning. They cannot then be taken up. They can only be taken up if they break down. So there you have it. Like it or
Okay.
not.
So
Okay.
we have 2 non-fish questions.
All right, I'm ready. Go
Okay.
for it.
Tisha wants to know if she can come on Friday and show her new place
Oh, that would be
on the
delightful.
show. Okay.
Absolutely.
So we can do that. And then GRB would like to know where you get your magnifying eyewear.
Aren't they nice? Um, I cannot find these on Amazon. They may well be there, but I haven't found them. I found some others I don't like at all. These I bought at a flea market years ago. I got a bunch of them, got all they had. So I guess the answer is I don't know. There are some that are available. They're supposed to be better. I don't think they're better. These some of them come with a light, and they come with an additional lens that gives you a higher. It's a flip down thing. These the light's gone and the flip down is broken off. So these are kind of old and decrepit. But I really like them because they work.
My dad had a set of those. They're probably still next door.
They're not. Yeah, they're wonderful.
Yeah, I was just gonna say GRB wanted to know if they went down over your regular eyewear, and I guess
They
yes.
do. Yeah, really effectively. And I can with these I can read the text from 2 feet away.
Ways away. Yeah.
Yeah, which I can't do with the others. I got to get within a few inches.
Yeah.
So I like them. I find them, but my old tired eyes appreciate the ability to be able to see stuff that that I can no longer see without them.
Yeah, my sister's saying they should be, Joey. His magnifying eyewear should still be next door.
Oh, nice. Go look for them, by all means.
Yeah, I should, because we don't want to throw them away if you can't buy them anymore. You know?
Well, yeah, they're probably available. I just haven't been able to find them. And, you know, maybe they're not manufactured anymore. I mean, things like that happen. They happen all the time. It's like with fish. I had fish when I was a kid, particularly things like tuxedo swords. I defy you to find a tuxedo sword today. I mean, there may be some, but boy, they're not generally available anymore. And it used to be, I mean, there were fish that were developed, certain strains of guppies were developed many years ago that nobody is breeding anymore. That strain is gone. And it would take the years it took to get there to be able to get it back. So yeah, things go away that are not that were very good and very helpful in their day and would remain so today. We do find things being reinvented and remanufactured from years ago that just had a kind of a life and a value of their own.
Well, you definitely want to keep them together. Duct tape them if you have to.
Right.
Duct tape works on everything.
Liz,
what
are they talking about?
Green Machine. Oh, I don't know. Green Machine has a question at 9:37.
Go ahead. Let's have it.
Father Fish, I got interested by your death versus life balance. Maybe it's a statement. Well, it's a question. Would you take dead fish out of your tanks or let it decompose naturally?
I would never let a dead fish decompose in the water column. Never. Because it'll create a bacteria thrush that can affect negatively every other fish in the tank. Unless it's a big fish, I would, however, as I usually do, push them down into the substrate, deeply into the substrate, where they will add nutrition to the system. So, yes and no. Yes, I leave them in, but I don't leave them in the water column because it creates too much risk for an explosion of bacteria. The problem with bacteria is not bacteria. The problem is not that it exists, but that it can exist in such quantities as to disrupt the otherwise natural balance of the system. It can burn off oxygen. Bacteria burns oxygen. If that bacteria explodes, as with a dead fish, it will burn off enough oxygen that another fish with a very high oxygen requirement will die. And then the combined uh, breakdown of the flesh of both of those fish will create even more bacteria. And you get what's referred to as a cascading effect, where everything becomes involved in this bacterial thrush, this bacteria bloom that's exploding in the tank and burning off the oxygen and breaking down everything else that is oxygen intensive to the point where one thing dies, creates more, another thing dies. And you wind up typically in a tank that crashes this way. I find this absolutely fascinating. A day or two later, there will be one fish alive breathing at the surface. One. Everything else will be dead. There will be one left alive. Now, in a week or two, the bacteria will have attacked that one to the point where it won't be able to survive because its body will be attacked by the bacteria. But typically, if you catch it at the end of the immediate crisis, there's still going to be one left. It's a bugger. It's interesting. So, no, do not leave dead fish laying in your tank. Either remove them or push them deep into the soil. And I need to take a break. Shall we?
Okay.
Shall we?
And then
Shall
I'll
we?
come back. I have a question when we come back.
Okay.
Well, I don't have a question, but someone
We're
has a
gonna
question.
do. We're gonna do.
Father fish, father fish. One place to go to if you have Vic. Your fish may itch or even flash. So Father Fish is your one-stop cap. Cap it all with an inch of sand. Cap it all with an inch of sand. Raise the temperature with a helping hand. And add some garlic on top of that sand. The itch will go, your plants will grow, and all of your fish will have a happy home. Father Fish, so Father Fish, your one-stop wonder if you keep fish. Starring Sir Father Fish and all his followers on the Father Fish channel. Over to you, Sir Father Fish.
I see feathers blue and angels white. Yeah. Goodness.
Very good job, Father Fish.
Oh dear.
Very nice.
Thank you.
So, apparently, I didn't see this or didn't understand. Tisha wants to give a tour of the current place, not the new place. So, just clearing that up. And then Karunagaran would like to know if they can keep goldfish with an iridescent shark, can keep them in the same tank.
Well, do you realize how big iridescent sharks get?
The rib.
Eddie, let's do some guesses here. Let's have some people guess how big iridescent sharks get. Throw out some estimates, shoulders.
Drop
How big
those
do
in
you
the
think
chat,
these guys get?
kids.
Keeping in mind that they eat whatever, they swim very fast.
Mm-hmm.
They're like lightning, and they eat whatever's in front of them.
Okay, you've got one guess, 24 inches from Chalupa. Guppy grass galore, 1.5 feet. GRB, 4 feet. James Handy, 6 feet. Chevy Fish, over 4 feet. Larry D, around 4 feet. Rohan, 4 feet. Rabbit,
Yeah, we're
3 feet. It's around 4 feet, right?
Yeah, 4 to 6. Yeah, they get bigger than that even. I've seen them caught in ponds in Thailand that were 8 foot long. They become monstrously big fish, monstrously big fish, big like big catfish.
Rohan says, I like to eat them.
I'm sure they're
I'm
excellent.
sure they are a food source.
Right,
Absolutely.
absolutely. Yeah, you bet.
And yes, Steph, way bigger than my goldfish. Way bigger than my goldfish.
Right. Yeah.
Eventually, they might snack on the goldfish, I think. Eventually.
Yeah, I would not keep them together.
Yeah.
Not if you really prize your goldfish. If you don't much care about the goldfish, it's fine, you know. But if you have fancy goldfish with long flowing fins, not a good tank make for them.
Right.
Not at all.
Not long term, like you said. You might get away with it when they're small.
Yeah, you can get away with it for a while. That's right.
Yeah. You can get away with a lot of things for a while.
Yeah, it's called playing Russian roulette.
Exactly. A lot of combinations work for a while, and then they don't.
Right.
Sometimes.
Right. A good example is people who insist on keeping angels with neons.
Yes.
It seems so perfect until the angels get just big enough
Mm-hmm.
to eat the neons, and they will. And the neons will disappear almost in an instant. After months of them living together. We have a
Mm-hmm.
song that Cassie B wrote about about a demonic little fish called a silver dollar.
Mm-hmm.
We had an experience here in one of our tanks. We had a large school, about a dozen big silver dollars. They were 5 to 6 inches, a wide band silver dollar. Really a pretty fish. And we kept them in with a school of very large angels. Angels about the same size, maybe slightly smaller, but big. And they all did famously together for about 2 months. And then all of a sudden, one morning, there are angels floating on the top, others laying on the bottom, others swimming without fins. They were attacked ferociously in one night, and every single one of them died. We pulled a few out that we thought we rescued, they died. They were sufficiently beaten up, they couldn't survive it. So, talk about Russian roulette.
Well,
Silver dollars.
and I think really what that reinforces is it's not just piranha that get into feeding frenzies. When it
Yeah,
starts,
exactly right. Yeah,
it can be any fish. You know, they get going.
yeah, and that's what it was. It
Believe
was
me.
a feeding frenzy. They
Yep.
just went mad. They went mad, I
Absolutely.
say mad,
Absolutely.
right?
Absolutely.
And they
And
just
you know,
tore up everything they could find. And if they could have gotten to each other, they'd have done that too. Yeah,
exactly.
fish are ferocious, ferocious.
They are.
I am bemused routinely by little old ladies who have a little fish tank that they love dearly, and they will bring in a little fish in a bucket. And they'll say, he's so mean. He beats up everybody and won't leave them alone. And what they brought in is a molly, typically. Molly. Now, I have never in my life considered mollies to be aggressive, but there you have it. Fish are ferocious.
They are.
Ferocious. All of them. Every one of them. It is
Well,
the nature of the beast. There is no
fish,
such thing as a gentle fish. Yeah.
fish eat fish. I
Fish
mean,
eat fish.
that, you know, like you said, they're either surviving on algae and, you know, whatever that food source is for that particular fish, and then everybody else just, they all just eat fish. They eat each other. It
Yeah,
sounds horrible.
right. There are very few fish that will only eat plants.
Right.
There are fish that will only eat fish. They're only or other similar living uh,
Mm-hmm.
animals. There are fish that won't eat. They'll if they're starving, they'll pick at a piece of lettuce or a plant just
Sure.
to try to get something in their belly. Um,
But
but
they'd
yeah,
rather have a nice warm meal.
really, fish are ferocious animals.
You
It's
know.
part of why we like them so much. My sweet, my little gentle tank is so peaceful. And then I got this new fish, and he came in, and he just started attacking everybody, and I had to bring him back because he was such a pretty little guppy, but he was so mean. I know, I know.
Yeah, but the
And
underlying
I
to that
smile
story,
and I say, yes, I understand. And so they take a barb home.
yeah, but you said the underlying part of that story is you just think they like coming in to visit you.
Oh, well,
They need
They're-
to exchange their fish once a month just to have a visit with Father Fish.
they are very sweet little ladies. They are indeed. Lori, what else you got here?
Oh, I don't have anything right here. You know, people are talking about stuff getting attacked. You know,
I
people on the-
shoot I shoot Chola at 920, which is way back from where you are, I guess. I wanted to
Yeah.
ask, I have a betta in a 15-gallon. Can I rescape and create a dirty deep substrate and put them back in the tank the same day? Absolutely. Yes, you can. Absolutely. I put fish. Now, the critical thing, you can put a fish in brand new water in a brand new tank. You can put it in immediately. What you don't want to do is put a lot of food in with it because the system has not built up enough ability to break down the waste from that. So you want to feed not at all the first day or two, and then after that, extremely sparingly. If you think, how can I say this? Whatever you're going to feed, divide it by 100 and feed that. Feed one grain of food, one flake of food. If the food is not eating once they see it, if it's not eaten immediately, then you've overfed. Food ought to be fed instantly. Now, I mean, it ought to be eaten instantly. Your fish should be hungry. They should be hungry all the time. They should be looking for food continuously, persistently. If you put some food in there and the fish are not interested in it, you have an extremely serious problem. Extremely serious.
True.
To the point where the fish could easily begin dying immediately or shortly thereafter. If that happens, start doing water changes big time. Just start doing water changes because you got something going on there that's really creating a serious problem for the fish, causing them to be very stressed.
I'm just reading fish streams and saying, yep, got some angels starting to pick off fish in my 55. Time to move the angels.
Time to move the angels. You betcha. Yeah, angels are pretty aggressive little buggers. They get big enough to eat little fish, and they'll do it.
And
They may seem like
angels eat a lot.
they may seem like angels that's drifting around in heaven, but they have teeth, and they use them.
I would
They're
really
also
like to
very
know.
quick.
Oh,
Yeah.
they are. I would really like to know how they actually got that name because, as you said, they're really anything but an angel.
Well, they look like it. You know, they look like an angel.
Angel fish.
They look like what we'd imagine. They're very flowy and very fancy, long flowing fins, kind of flat, and I mean they're graceful. They're very graceful looking animals.
They are.
Yeah, and the more they're bred to be in just enormously graceful with huge flowing fins. Beautiful, beautiful fish.
But
voracious they are. Voracious.
Well, they are, as you said, they're way faster than I think people would think they could be with that shape.
I'll tell you something else about them. A big angel will poke a hole in a tank in a bag. Will poke a hole in a bag every time you put them in the bag. And how they do that with those delicate soft fins? Well, of course, right there, that one.
Yes.
Fin right there, as hard as a nail.
Have you ever got
they
poked
use
with that? It sure hurts. I
Yeah.
stopped picking them up with my hands because I've been poked so many times.
Yeah, really.
I'm not doing that anymore.
Right.
But you are right. They will poke holes. We're getting a little bit of My guppy's aggressive. I've got an aggressive Molly. Yeah, it doesn't matter what fish it is. Yep,
Yeah.
absolutely. Can I culture brine? Rohan wants to know, Father Fish, can I culture brine shrimp in winter without a lid?
Outdoors or indoors?
Well, he's saying in winter, but he doesn't specify inside or outside. Just yeah, it doesn't specify. Just it's at 9:36 or 8. Sorry, 30. No, 9:56. Can I culture brine shrimp in winter without a lid? That's the question. I guess we're not
Not
sure
out.
if you're
Well, not outdoors.
not
Um,
outdoors. Yeah,
they will not. Um, they will not hatch if the temperature's too low.
right.
If it's down, well, I don't know what temperature, probably 45, 50. They will not hatch, or they will not hatch quickly. The water needs to be warmer.
Yeah.
Probably 60, 55, 60 would be the starting conditions in the spring where the eggs would soften enough for the embryo to develop and hatch out. Um,
Mhm.
yeah, if you take them indoors, do them indoors, they're fine. But you're not going to get much of a hatching at all outdoors in the winter. And if it's really cold, you won't get a hatching at all. Nothing will hatch. And keep in mind that when these guys hatch, they have to eat right away. And what they eat typically is algae because that's typically what's available. They're hatching out in unique environments, in environments that have a very high salinity, high enough that fish and other larger invertebrates or larger vertebrates and invertebrates cannot survive. The only reason brine shrimp survive at all is because they don't have any predators. they're they're in there all by themselves in the Salt Lake, way up in the Andes, in the Salt Lakes in the Andes. They exist in isolation from all other inverts and vertebrates, with the possible exception of the flamingo in the Andes, which feed on them in vast numbers uh, in order to derive their pink hue. The flamingos become pink based on the food that they eat, and the food that they eat is brine shrimp. I don't know that anyone has harvested. I guess the difficulty would be overwhelming of getting that high up into the Andes Mountains and bringing back a ton of brine shrimp eggs. I mean, who in the world would do it? Um, you know, particularly when they're available in adequate quantities locally here in the Salt Lakes, and so long as they are able to continue raising them in the salt flats in San Francisco. I understand those salt flats are being bulldozed in order to build housing on the on the water on the harbor.
Yeah.
A loss, but then they were not built for brine shrimp. They were built for making salt. That's why they're called the salt flats. They mined salt there for years and years. And then when they stopped doing that and they filled with water, the brine shrimp moved in um, and made home, and it became a secondary harvest.
Hmm. So, Brienne,
Cisco brine shrimp. They're a little smaller, I think, or larger. I can't remember which. I think smaller
I think
than
they're
the
smaller, right?
Salt
Yeah,
Lake. I think so.
I think they're smaller.
Than the Salt Lake shrimp.
Yeah.
What else you got there?
Well, Brienne has a question. She says, "Hi, things change. I'm getting my female betta today. What other supplies should I get for betta breeding?
What other what?
Supplies.
Oh, supplies.
I guess she wants to know what she needs to breed her bettas.
She's getting a female.
Yeah, and she's the one I was mentioned to you that I talked to you for a minute last night. She's a young girl wanting to breed her bettas.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
Whatever you can help her with.
good. Okay. So you now have a female betta. That's wonderful. If you look on the belly of the betta, if it's a mature female, there will be a tiny white spot right around the anus. It's actually called the ovipositor. Ova meaning egg, positor meaning deposit. That tiny white spot means that the female is ready to spawn. What you need next is a male betta. So, assuming you have a male betta, you can now put them together. Make sure there are escape routes for the female because the male can become very aggressive. If you have plants in the tank, that will help enormously. If you have an old dirty tank, that will help even more because it will provide that first food that those babies need when they hatch out and start looking around to eat something. There will be microscopic life down in there that will be the first food they eat. So you put the male in the tank first, and then you can float the female in a jar until the male builds a bubble nest. And if the female has an egg spot, as I described it, you can put her in the tank, and sometimes within an hour, they will be busy spawning, laying eggs and fertilizing them and putting them in the nest. Once they're finished, you need to take the female out. Her job is done. And it'll be up to the male then to take care of the babies, to take care of the eggs, and then the babies after they hatch. And they'll do it all by themselves. There's nothing you need to do. Just make sure that after 2 or 3 days, when those babies start swimming around, that there is something in there for them to eat. Again, an old dirty tank works brilliantly and will save the life of at least a few of the babies. If you can hatch brine shrimp, get a micro culture going, anything like that is going to be beneficial and will help those babies to get their first meal. There are 1,000 other details involved in doing this, none
Yes.
of which are important to know until you're in the middle of it and see it happening. They do it themselves. There's really very little you need to do at all. Just observe. As we did in their tank today on today's video, it's all about watching and observing. Take some pictures if you can. It's really an amazing process.
I just want to add to that father fish so that I don't know if she's watched a lot of videos, but when they're spawning, it can be kind of aggressive and look like they're fighting and that it's really bad. Don't necessarily panic. That's part of the process.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
once in a while,
the male has to bring the female into submission. If she's not in submission, she will not be able to release eggs. They will not be able to swim together. So he has to bring her to that point, which is why with a very old, large female, it's impossible for that to happen because, frankly, she'll fight back and she will win every time. A big old female betta will kill a male before she'll breed with him.
So those are just some tips. You have a question from Kira.
Yes.
She She says, Father Fish, for nano tanks, 2.5 gallons, 5 gallons, and 10 gallons, how deep should I make the dirt and the sand?
Well, it's really up to you. You do what you're able to do. Um, if you can do a minimum of 1 inch of dirt and 2 inches of sand, that may be too much um, for your liking, and the tank simply may be too shallow. If it's too shallow, I would not put dirt in at all. Just as close to 2 inches of sand as you can get. 1.5 inches will be adequate. So you can kind of adjust it accordingly. I have 20-gallon tanks, 20-gallon long tanks that have 5 inches of substrate in them. And keep in mind, they're only 10 inches deep. So they're half filled with substrate. I've had those tanks set up for 10 years. They grow plants and keep fish extraordinarily well. Would I keep one on display in my living room? Probably not, only as an oddity, because it looks frankly kind of weird. But it's weird or not looking, it's enormously effective.
I'm looking for questions. I'm finding just statements and things. And Brianne, you're mentioning that you don't know how old your male betta is. All you can do is try it. If it doesn't work out, then try to get a younger one next time.
Yeah, you want to get a young female. Don't let somebody.
She's talking about her male. She doesn't know how old her male is, but I mean, you can just try it.
Yeah, it doesn't really matter. The older the male, the better, frankly.
Yeah.
Because they're more experienced, particularly if they've had a chance to breed. Now, most of the bettas that you buy in a store have never bred, unless you're unlucky enough to get somebody's worn out breeding stock.
Old stock.
Now, if you see a big, beautiful betta, there's a good chance that it was somebody's breeding stock. You may be able to keep it alive for a while, but it's kind of on its last legs and it's not likely to last long. TJ New Life at 9:59. I cut my feeding by a fourth, and now all my fish are busy and interact with the whole aquarium. Even the mulm is breaking up faster because of this. Kira, my angel was so sweet and turned into a killer. I gave him to my ex-boyfriend.
I saw that.
Good job.
Yeah, we're on the angel thing. Luke Kennedy has just a nice statement. He says, hey, Father Fish, I fixed my ammonia problem. Now, after having a few water changes and no feeding, you're right about not feeding too often.
Yeah, that's the key. It really is. We overfeed. We want to watch our fish eat, and so we overfeed, and it doesn't do them a bit of good, or the system itself a bit of good.
Oh, and then he says in a statement below, for my goldfish, I'll now only do feedings twice weekly for a few hours before my water changes. That's a good idea.
Right. All right.
All right, Betta Days. Hello, Betta Days. What? I'm just looking for an actual question. Sorry.
Yeah, there is a lot of conversation going on in the chat between people discussing matters completely separate, fish matters completely separate from the topic that's going on here. I consider this one of the great values of this stream and this shoal. that we're able to have multiple conversations on multiple topics going on at once. I see them, most of them, and find them fascinating. I may or may not pick up on it because it may or
Right.
may not be something. Number one, I may not know anything about it, as is the case right now with the conversations going on about multis. I really
Right.
don't know that much about it, so I don't have
And
much to offer. But
right.
keep in mind that we have people here in our chat who are some of the top breeders and top fish people available anywhere who are carrying on conversations
Mm-hmm.
and being part of this process, helping out in the chat in ways that we can't possibly get to up here. This is the the fluff, if you will.
Yeah.
We're just
Well,
trying to keep it
I
entertaining
mean,
so everybody can be involved.
I think your overall point is not only are you getting great information from you, but you can get great information from the chat. So use
Yeah,
all the sources.
absolutely. If
Use
I
all
miss
your
a
sources.
question, if Joey or I miss a question, there's a good chance somebody else is picking it up
Exactly.
and responding to it,
And the
and that'll bring more people into it. So
sure.
there's a lot of conversation going on there that we never discuss and never relate to because we
Yeah.
really don't need to, and yet we very much appreciate the fact that we're able to create this environment that makes that kind of conversation
Yes.
possible.
Absolutely. And I'm going to answer a question quickly, Father Fish. Luke, on this tank behind me, I use an Aqua Clear 110. And that's all I have on there for filtration. And I have one air stone that I run, and that's it. That's all I do. Hope that helps.
Curio Critters at 1016. Father Fish, love you and your content. Certainly a throwback to the more conscientious and practical fish keeping days of old. Much love from India. Thank you so much, Curio Critters. I have not had a chance to get on YouTube today. I've been stuck up here in StreamYard and I'm not able to pass out wrenches. Uh, I
But
will be sure to do that tomorrow.
I was going to say, you need to do that, though. You got some people coming
Yeah,
back,
I know.
so
We got
sure.
some new people who are coming back, and we need to welcome them
You will
into
do
the
that. You have
fish
a
tank,
question
right?
from Daniel at 1012. Can you see that? Daniel Jeffries. And welcome, Daniel.
Yeah. Is it okay to add 15 haps and peacocks and a 55 with sand substrate with the addition of a few plants? We'll try it and see. It should be fine. Um, the video that we put out today is a 200-gallon tank with a deep substrate. Now, that substrate was set up 10 years ago. It's about 7 or 8 inches. I never dirted it because I initially had very digging fish, Central American cichlids in there. After 10 years, it's built up quite a mound base, um, sufficient to grow plants. So it's a tank full of plants with lots of haps and other mbunas, as well as Central American and South American cichlids and some catfish. A lot of fish in it. Don't know how many, probably close to 200 fish. And some of them are pretty good size, 6, 8 inches. Um, watch the video. It's really illuminating, kind of interesting based on what's going on in that tank. So yeah, it
All right,
should be fine to try it and see. Yes, Joey.
we have a question from TJ. TJ's New Life. I have 2 inches of gravel I have capped with 2 to 3 inches of sand. The gravel was pretty clean after I redid my tank. Will this work as a deep bed?
It will. It'll just take time for it to build up. Um, you can start with 3 inches of sand. It may take 6 months to a year for it to build up to the point where it'll really be providing nutrition for the plants. But it'll get there. It'll definitely get there. So you don't have to use dirt. Dirt is a way of creating a media that generates activity right away, that gets nutrition flowing right away. But it'll do it all by itself without dirt. It'll create dirt. A deep enough sand bed will create dirt if it's deep enough. Needs to be 3 to 4 inches minimum. Yeah, more is better.
Okay. Can I answer another goldfish question that's
Wait,
on here?
I
Okay. Again, this tank, Luke. I do a 50% water change about every 3 weeks. It's pretty heavily stocked. There's probably about 12 fish in there. But that's what I do. Just that AquaClear 110, that 50% water change, and I do feed pretty heavily because I breed my fish. And that's it. That's the whole thing. Nothing special.
Right. Now, keep in mind that all of these differences in fish keeping are a function of maintenance, a function of what people are willing to do to keep it going. The deep substrate system that I recommend is for extraordinarily lazy people who really don't want to do anything other than sit there and watch it. And you can get away with that pretty effectively. Not thoroughly, but pretty effectively. There may be times when you are forced out of your chair to do something, but those times won't be frequent. They may be catastrophic, but they will be frequent.
Right. And
observation.
To add to that, I consider this a pretty low maintenance tank, a heavily stocked goldfish tank that I basically do a 50% water change on once a month. To me, is low maintenance. Father Fish considers that a high maintenance tank. So it's
no, I wouldn't say high maintenance. It's a maintenance tank. It requires maintenance as opposed to none. I mean, I have tanks that require zero maintenance.
Right.
In fact, the more attention is paid to them, the worse they are. They're better off not having any attention at all. I had a tank recently. I looked at it, and it was full of. It had brown algae in it, diatoms, and a mold, a mucky kind of mold building up. And I looked, and there were bits of food in there. Now, it's a tank I never feed. And somebody had been feeding that tank for days, probably weeks. And it had come to the point where it was ready to crash. I cleaned it out a bit, wiped the front of the glass, kind of whooshed things around, and then warned everyone that they would be emasculated if they dared put another pit of food in that tank. And I haven't checked it since then, but I'm hoping it's okay now.
I hope we're not in trouble. So Ronnie Dover has a good question. He says, when you plant your tank, or when you plant your plants in, all right, all right. When you plant your tank in your dirt tank, do you put them in the substrate or in the sand?
Excellent. I put them in the sand, halfway down in the sand. If you push them all the way down in the dirt, and it's a relatively new tank, there's a good chance that substrate, which is not yet chelated, is going to burn off the roots. It'll kill them. It's just like gardening. If you have too much rich environment, too much fertilizer in your soil, it can burn the roots of the plants. Same thing. I plant them halfway down in the sand. The roots then will find nutrition. That's their job. That's what they do, and they do it exceedingly well. They will move around. They'll dig down in there until they find a source of nutrition that they can begin assimilating. So let the plant do the work. Don't push it all the way down in the dirt. In a brand new tank, you'll kill it. Push it halfway down in the sand and let it do its thing. It'll work out just fine.
You have a question from Ashu at 10:23.
Okay.
It says, once my 15-gallon has been dirted and deep substrate, how long do I wait until I add more? It says wish, but I believe that's fish. I am first-time fish keeper. No extra advice would help.
Probably fish. Okay. Speaking. Yes. Can you hold on a second? I'm on another call um, that I need to finish up. I got about 100 people online with me. Can you call me back? Yeah, sure. Go ahead. Yeah. What's your name? I'm sorry. Christian. Okay. Thank you so much. I will call back. Right. Thank you. All right. We'll get back to that later. It's going to take way too long.
So basically, they've done the deep substrate, and they currently have a betta and 3 narite snails, and I think they're wondering when they could add more fish. I think that's their basic
Right away. Right away. Yeah, immediately. Again, don't feed immediately. Or if you do feed an exceedingly tiny amount because their tank's not going to be ready to deal with the bio load. The
Right.
fish can go without eating for extended periods of time. And by that I mean up by months. They can go without eating literally for months. So don't worry about starving your fish. You're not going to starve your fish. You can, however, foul the tank. So just go slow with feeding and feed very sparingly.
Okay. Larry D has a question. Father Fish, your pygmy sunfish, what type of setup is needed in a 10-gallon, and how many would be okay?
In a 10-gallon, I would not do more than one male and a couple of females. The males are extremely aggressive toward each other. In a bigger tank, you could do more. Like a 20 long, you could do 2 males. They set up breeding territories, and they steer clear of each other as whenever possible. Um, Shallow water. Keep your water as shallow as possible. They breed in an inch of water. They live in an inch of water. Obviously, you're going to want to be deeper than that. I would recommend a deep substrate of peat moss, just peat moss, an inch or 2 deep, with nothing else in there, no water flow at all, no filtration at all, and just let them thrive in that. You'll find that um, they're going to feed on the microscopic life that's living in there. They're going to survive without you putting food in. If you do put food in, put some green water in. Um, put like paramecium culture in, something that you've developed with a lettuce leaf in the water. Let that grow in there. They're not looking for pieces of food. They're looking for little tiny animals to eat. So you want to have that kind of culture going. Eventually, you'll notice babies that are so tiny they're almost impossible to see, but they will spawn in that medium.
Luke has another question about the goldfish at 10:26.
You go ahead. Yeah.
Well, I mean, he just says, Joey, I'm baffled. Why don't you have ammonia spikes? I have 6 goldfish, approximately 6 inches, and 2 dojo loaches, approximately 7 inches. I have a Sun 1000 EF with the sponge tray and 2 Biotome Ultra. Maybe there's something else that goes with that because it just ends there. As well as a 1600 IPH pump with sponges or intake, and a homemade DIY bottle filter, air driven with sponge and biogravel. I still change 30% once or twice a week. I don't know how to address that. Do you? I mean,
I was reading something else. I'm sorry. I missed it.
Basically, he's just explaining what he has for fish and the filtration he has. And it sounds like he has a lot of filtration, but he still says he has to do 30% water change once or twice a week. And I guess he's wondering how I'm only changing 50% once a month. And I don't know. I don't have ammonia spikes. And I feed heavy. I do. I don't know. I don't know how to answer it. Do you?
Well, I don't, without looking at every detail in his tank, it's hard to know. He may have soft water. There'd be a difference with soft water.
That could be a good point. Yeah, because I have hard alkaline water.
Hard alkaline water, yeah, it's going to burn off.
Maybe that could be a difference. Yeah.
Yeah. Also, the age and the condition of the substrate, whatever it is, if it's got a lot of nitrifying bacteria in it, that's going to be burning off ammonia as well. It may be that your substrate is too new, too green, or somehow is precluded from being able to build up nitrifying bacteria.
Okay.
That's the key, is the nitrifying bacteria.
This tank's been set up probably about 13 months. It's not an old tank.
Not an old tank, yeah. Hard to know.
It is hard to know.
Yeah, I would cut back on feeding. Cut back on feeding and see what difference that makes. Probably will be substantial.
Yeah. I need 180 liters. I don't know what that is in gallons.
So about 60 gallons, I think. 75 gallons.
So it's a pretty good sized tank. Yeah.
Yeah, nice sized tank. All right, we need to run along, boys and girls.
All right.
Nice to have you all with us. It's been a joy, as ever. And tomorrow morning, Cassie B will be here in the morning.
Yep.
And I'll see you again on Friday, Joey.
You will.
Take care. Love you all.
Thank you for everyone coming. Bye, everyone.
Delighted to have you all with us. Nice to have you here. Have a great, glorious, fishy day.